Tuning in for change.
Hi, my name's Juliette Bryant, and this is my new radio show on Kinder Sounds, Transformative Health. I'm really pleased to be part of the Kinder Sounds family, which is part of the amazing Missing Kind charity. And this is a charity all about promoting and delivering kindness in all shapes and forms. And the Missing Kind is developing a network of kindness venues as social enterprises, delivering services of benefit to local people in need and supporting individuals and community groups with their personal social missions. So this is an amazing thing, to deliver kindness and to be bringing that ethos of kindness into the world. And that's what I'm all about. So we're going to be talking about on this show how we can bring kindness to our body, mind and spirit.
Kinder sound. Tuning in for change.
So we're here today. I have Giles Bryant, my producer here, who is going to be reading out some questions that listeners have emailed in with. And Giles also has an amazing show on Kinder Sounds Radio called
Awakening. Thank you, Juliette. And it's lovely to be here and on your show, Transformative Health. So what you got to tell us about today, Juliette?
Well, first of all, I want to introduce myself because this is my first show on here. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself first. I started off my life looking at health and well-being really when my mum got sick when I was 8 years old. My mum got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and at that point she radically transformed our lives, changed the way we ate, and really started to look into health and well-being in many different ways. And this had a profound impact upon me because I started to see how food could impact the health and well-being of someone. Now, obviously at 8, when you're suddenly not allowed to eat fish fingers and chips and beans and stuff like that, and you have lentil stews all the time, it's not the most pleasant of things, but the funny thing is, it really served me well because it grounded me in my knowledge of nutrition, which I later on, when I became pregnant with my first child, really decided to delve into. I realised how important it was that I looked after myself because I was bringing another being into this world. And that really reawoken my journey into health and well-being. And here we are. I suppose my journey's been all my life. I'm 41 now, and I keep learning and I keep growing. So on this show, I'm going to be sharing things that I'm doing, things that I'm learning, my experiences with plants, what plants I'm using. I love connecting people into the earth and reminding them that the earth has all the solutions there for them. So we're going to be looking at all those amazing things that the earth has to offer. And also we're going to be learning to tune into that inner wisdom within our own body, so that we can listen to the divine wisdom that we are. So what I want to talk to you today about are some of the basic principles, as I see it, in transforming your health. So one of the key things when we're looking at transforming our health, the first thing that I think is of utmost importance is the breath. Now, people probably are thinking, yeah, well, I breathe all the time. What do I need to do more than that? And yes, our breath happens unconsciously. But when we tune in consciously to our breath, we can start to really shift the way we're thinking and the way we're feeling. It's been shown that through our breath, we can eliminate 70% of the toxins in our body. And this is huge. So when we're breathing properly, deep belly breaths, not shallow chest breathing, then we can really aid the natural processes of the body. Also, when we're not breathing properly, our cells aren't being oxygenated properly. So we're not going to have enough energy. We're not going to have as much concentration in our body. So this is such an important thing to look at. It's also been shown that when we're in a stress state, so when we're in fight or flight, we can switch out of this through the breath. So the breath can change our mental and emotional state. So one of the things that I learnt from an amazing man called Dr. Chatterjee, who is an incredible doctor over in the UK, And he said that there's a brilliant breath, 3, 4, 5 breath, that can actually change your state of being. So when you breathe in for 3, you hold your breath for 4, and then you breathe out for 5. What this can do is switch you out of fight or flight into a calm state. So should we try that here, listeners? So we're going to do 3 breaths of 3, 4, 5, and I'll talk you through it. So if you want to sit with your back straight and your feet on the floor, putting your hands on your belly, and just for a moment connecting into your breath, not controlling it, but just connecting into it. And just noticing how you feel in your being. And now, on your next inhale, we're going to begin with the 3, 4, 5 breath. So breathing in and holding and breathing out and breathing in again, holding and breathing out. And one more time, breathing in, holding and breathing out. And take a moment now just to scan your body again and see how you're feeling. Do you notice a difference? How does your being feel? I know I certainly feel calmer from doing that. So this is something that you can do very quickly and very easily to help reduce that feeling of stress in the body, to help your being to calm down. And it's been shown that stress has one of the major impacts on the body, on the nervous system, on the immune system, on really every function in the body. So if we can try and reduce that stress level in our body, then everything is going to work better. And by doing things like this breath, this is one of the simple tools that you can do to start to reduce that stress level in your body. So the first thing when we come to transformative health is really looking at the breath, connecting to the breath, being conscious about the breath. The next thing that really has such a major impact upon our health and our well-being is water. How much water we consume can really affect, again, our mind, our concentration, our cellular functions within the body, our body's ability to detoxify. So these are such key things to the general running of our body, and yet what we see is so many people are walking around chronically dehydrated. As a grown-up, without doing anything, but just on the internal cellular functions of the body, your body uses 1.5 litres of water a day. So this is a huge amount of water. How many people can say that every day they're drinking that much water? Well, from my experience travelling around the world, talking to people, giving talks at lots of venues and events, not many people are doing this. So this is something that we really need to start looking at, because from young children, we see them getting into a pattern of not drinking on a regular basis, quite often because they're in schools and the teachers don't want them to go to the toilet a lot because it's disruptive to lessons. But actually that's counterproductive, because what happens is when you become dehydrated, you actually lose the ability to concentrate. So this is massive, isn't it? Can you think about all those school kids sitting on the rug at 2:00 in the afternoon, all being really fidgety and hyper? Well, one of the reasons for that might be that their brains are struggling because they're not getting enough water.
So, Juliette, we've got a listener who's asked a question here. They said, what about fruit? What about if people are eating fruit? There's a lot of water in fruit.
That's a great question, and that's right. That we can get our water supply from other sources. So cucumbers, pineapples, oranges, all of these things do have water in them. So we are going to be getting that liquid in other forms. But it's really important. What I recommend to people is if you can try to have 1.5 litres of water at least a day that you're drinking, then The other stuff is going to be adds on, because let's say you have to run for the bus, or you're doing a bit of a workout, or you're doing your yoga class, or any of these things are going to use up more water. Also, if you're drinking caffeine or you're having alcohol, all of these things dehydrate your body more. So if you can have that as a base, that you have 1.5 litres minimum of water, then the other things will top it up to keep your levels at a good space. I know for me, 2 litres really is where I feel about right most of the time for my water intake.
And so, Juliette, is that just water straight out the tap that you're recommending people? Should people be buying bottled water?
So this is a really great question, and it's quite a big question to look into. Depending on where you live, obviously depends on the quality of the water that comes out of your tap. But most water that comes out of the tap has been through a lot of cleaning processes. And in the cleaning process, you have chlorine. Some water supplies have fluoride in. Also, you have small particles of antibiotics, all the medications people take, hormones. So water from a tap really isn't necessarily the best source of water that you can be getting. Ideally, what we want to be doing is having water as nature intended. Water's meant to be coming down off those mountains, being cleansed and cleaned as it comes down, picking up a magnetic charge, picking up minerals, and then coming out of a spring somewhere that we then drink. This is the optimum water that we could be having. But obviously, this isn't accessible to everyone. So what can most people do? Well, you can get a good filter, and there are some great filters out there. I've got one that I've been using for 15 years, which has been designed to mimic nature. So it's got magnets in it, it's got minerals in it, so it filters it, remineralizes and magnetizes the water. And there are more and more filters out there that are doing this, replicating how we should be getting it. And the other thing is, obviously, people would then say, well, what about bottled water? Because obviously bottled water is mineral water. But what happens with bottled water is the plastic bottles are blown, they're created, and what's meant to happen is that these bottles sit for a year on a shelf to off-gas, to allow the chemicals to settle of the plastic that's made it. But this would be financially absolutely insane for companies to do. So they blow the plastic bottles and then fill them. So all of those off gases, the chemicals, settle into the water. And then if you have the water out in the sun in that plastic bottle, then those chemicals are going to leach even more into the plastic. And people are now relating that to cancers. So we really want to try and avoid the plastic water bottles. Not only that, but we've got the environmental impact.
That's right. I was going to say, it's a lot of plastic bottles that people are going to be having, isn't it? If they're having 1.5 litres a day, that's going to be 6 or 7 bottles a week. They're just going to be accumulating, and then what happens to those?
Exactly.
Not very kinder for the earth. So you're saying the alternative to that, or what about glass? People could get it in glass, couldn't they?
Yeah, glass bottles are another good alternative, and then you can obviously reuse the glass bottles. We've got glass bottles here from things like apple juice, and then we reuse them for our smoothies or for our water or whatever we're taking out that day. So glass is a much better way. But if you can have a filter and your own water bottle that you have, then that is the best probably solution out there, so that you're not adding so much volume of consumerism to the planet, and obviously that those things have to degrade or be processed. So that would be my recommendation with water. Get a good water filter. And there are lots out there on the market, so that you can be getting clean water that's going to be really nourishing your body.
Kind of sound, tuning in for change.
What could someone do to improve their water? That could be a very basic things they could do to improve their drinking water.
Well, the first thing you can do is when you pour water out of a tap, if you pour it into a jug and you leave it to sit on the side for an hour, the chlorine off gases, it comes off it. So that's one first step that you could do if you can't do anything else. The next thing you could do is you can get a charcoal filter. It's just a little water blob of charcoal, not charcoal that you would use on a barbecue, but you can get special charcoal filters that you then put into a jug of water. So that's the next step you could do to clean your water. You could try and find your local spring this is a really nice idea. Go and find, if you've got a spring near you that you can collect local water from. In the UK, there is a website called findmyspring.co.uk, which is a great source to go and look at to see if you've got something like that. And I'm sure there are others around the world. So do check the internet out, because it's a great resource for that.
Yeah, wonderful. So
There's,
maybe people could write in and say, if you get your water from a local spring, a special spring, tell us about it.
Definitely. And there's an amazing man called Dr. Emoto who did some incredible work on the vibration of water, looking at the geometric structure of water. So what Dr. Emoto did was he took water from different sites around the world, sacred sites, trauma sites. He also took water samples from water that had different music played to it, different words spoken over it, and he froze the water and then looked at it under a microscope. And what he found was that water from sacred sites, water where it had been told love and gratitude, or where Mozart, for example, was played over it, had a beautiful harmonic geometric structure to it, like a snowflake. And the opposite, when water had maybe harsh music played to it, was in a site where there'd been a lot of trauma, or where hate or idiot or stupid was said over it.
I mean, just the water, the main water source from Tokyo, when he photographed that, was a very irregular pattern. And then the monk said a prayer to it, and it formed that beautiful snowflake. That's a wonderful thing. The transforming power of thought.
Exactly. So one of the things you can do, what I was in the middle of saying was that if they said these negative words, what happened was there was no geometric structure. So the geometric structure would be diminished. Now, one of the things that's so important to remember with this is that we contain over 70% water within our being. So whatever we think about ourselves as well, when we're consuming food, our just everyday thoughts are going to affect the geometric structure of our water. So that's why with your water, what you can do is you can say love and gratitude. You can get a nice sticker for your water bottle. You can put it on a beautiful picture, your jug of water. You can send it loving thoughts. And these things have all been shown to transform the quality of that water. So if we can do that for our external water, we should also spend some time doing that for ourselves and saying loving, kind thoughts to ourselves. One of my favourite things, such a powerful prayer of transformation, is Ho'oponopono. And Ho'oponopono is, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And if you can spend some time every day saying this to yourself, for any situations in your life that are causing you stress, this has such a deep power to transform and heal situations. There's a beautiful story with Ho'oponopono, where a Hawaiian, was he a doctor or a priest? I can't remember what he was, but anyway, this lovely Hawaiian psychiatrist, he got all the files out for this prison where there'd been a lot of trouble, and he sat every day looking through these files and saying Ho'oponopono to all of the inmates, and it really transformed the prison and the people in the prison. So this is such a beautiful thing, and those people in that prison knew nothing about what he was doing, so it shows the power that our thoughts can have on transforming situations. So really focusing on water, your intake of water, how you can clean your water, as I said, using a charcoal filter, power of thought, putting it on a nice, beautiful mandala maybe, writing the words love and gratitude on your bottle, getting a good filter. All of these things are really amazing things that you can do. Another thing that is really powerful with your water when you're consuming it, and one of the things that I found makes it much easier to drink water, is in the morning you get a large glass of water and you put a pinch of good salt in. So when I say good salt, I'm not talking about table salt. I'm talking about a Himalayan salt or a raw grey sea salt, a Celtic salt, a salt that's not been kiln dried, a salt that's kind of dirty in its look. You know, it's got all its minerals still intact. So my favourite is a Celtic salt that's close to where we are, and it's a beautiful sauce. So you put a little tiny pinch of that salt into your water and some lemon, and you drink that large glass in the morning after you've cleaned your mouth, because what that does for you is the salt awakens your being, it awakens your cells, it gives you that zing, that kind of electrifies your being. The lemon is very alkalizing to your body, but one of the main things that you're doing with that, having that water in the morning first thing, is you're reminding your body what it feels like to rehydrate. You've gone through the night without drinking, so your body needs some water. Also, when you have that water in the morning, you're aiding the natural detoxification processes that go on in the body anyway. So you're helping your body flush out. You're aiding your body to go to the toilet. And water with salt and lemon is a very good laxative for the body, so it will help you much more than a coffee. A lot of people say, I've got to have my coffee in the morning because it wakes me up and it helps me go to the toilet. Well, you'll find that just having that large glass of water has a very similar effect, but without the negative effects that the caffeine can have on your body. And the water can enliven your being and pick you up and wake you up and make you feel alert in a much more sustainable way than the coffee would.
Yes, so I suppose, the old Adam's ale, possibly the best drink for us.
Definitely. So the more you can drink water, and if you've got kids, getting them used to drinking water as opposed to drinking juices and things like that is so important, because their taste buds form at a young age. So the more they can just have water, the more they're going to enjoy just drinking water instead of having to have, those squashes which potentially are filled with aspartame and other neurotoxins or sugars and those kind of things. We don't want filling up our water. We just want nice water. And if you want a bit of flavour, as I said, add some lemon. It's a great thing to do to your water, or add some fresh mint from your garden to infuse into the water, because that's another brilliant thing you can do with water, is you can collect herbs and infuse them in the water. Flowers you can infuse in water to give it a nice scent, a nice taste, but also to infuse it with the energetic and the medicinal properties of those plants that you're potentially using. So this is a really lovely, simple thing that you can do with water. So we've talked about breath, we've talked about water, some of the key things for really health and well-being, the basics, the kind of foundations to transforming your health. And so often it is the simple things. People think they have to get really complicated with transforming their health, but so often it is just about those simple things.
So, Juliette, we've got a question in here. Someone is saying that in the times of the lockdown and the restrictions on movement, it's been very difficult to focus on good health because of the physical separation. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of that for our health and our well-being? Maybe having a hug, maybe seeing people, maybe being with people.
So we are all very tactile beings, and I know for myself, if I haven't had contact or hug or that kind of touch by someone, that can really affect me. And you see it a lot with older people who are living by themselves and maybe don't have any family close by. Without that physical contact, without holding someone's hand or just a touch on the shoulder, these things are all acts of love and care, and they can really have a big impact on our health and our well-being. And our physical health is very much dependent on our mental, emotional and spiritual health. They're all linked. And so often we forget about this. We forget about the fact that we are more than our physical being. We are souls, and we need contact with other beings, and this is so important. Even animals, that contact with animals is if you can't have contact with humans, getting a stroke and a cuddle from a cat or a dog can really be the difference for someone. And again, this is something you see with people who are older quite often, or maybe are single, or they've lost their partners or something like that. Having that companionship of an animal can really transform their mental health, because it's the closeness, it's connection, isn't it, to other living beings. For me, when I struggle with feeling disconnected from others, when I struggle with feeling lonely or isolated within my own being, because sometimes you can feel isolated and lonely even in a crowded room, can't you? And for me, one of the best tools that I have is to go out onto the earth and to sit barefoot on the earth or lay on the earth and to feel the embrace of the earth, to realize that I am part of this beautiful planet. And just like the trees and the flowers and the animals, I am one with this beautiful planet, and I am part of this amazing ecosystem. You know, for me, this is something that really makes me feel quite emotional when I actually think about my place in the world, because the world is such an incredible place. Yes, there's a lot of trauma and stuff that goes on in the world, but it's also so magical when you can see a flower bloom, and from that flower blooming an apple appears, and when you can see a caterpillar go into a cocoon and transform into a butterfly, and when you can plant a seed yourself and water it and see it grow into a sunflower and then harvest those seeds. All of these things are such magical, incredible acts that the earth does. And when you see these acts, what I remember is that I am part of the earth's creation. So I have that magic within me. I have that beauty within me, as we all do, because we are part of this earth. And when I remember that and I tune into that, that really helps me to feel connected. It helps me to understand that there is more going on than meets the eye. There is more than just the dramas of everyday life of human beings. And if any of you have ever watched a flower opening or smelt a rose, then maybe you can appreciate and feel into what I'm talking about now. It's a really powerful, powerful thing. So, you know, one of the things that I think is, if you are alone or lonely, start growing some plants, start a relationship with your herbs, and develop that connection with them. Start a relationship with the earth, with nature, and with watching the birds singing. Yesterday I was out in my front garden and I was in my favourite place, which is under my mulberry tree, and this beautiful robin was singing away, and it was such a magical song. And it was almost like the earth was giving me a gift in the song of that robin. And it really warmed my heart and opened me up. So listen and look at what the earth is giving you, because there is joy and connection all around us if we choose to see it.
And I suppose for the people that are the listeners out there that maybe they're in a flat, you know, you're saying just try and get to a park, try and go to somewhere, a place of nature.
Definitely.
Even a churchyard can
Yeah.
be nice, can't it? And just maybe spend a bit of time in nature to feel that connection.
And if you can't get out in nature for whatever reason, maybe you are housebound and you can't get out, then one of the things that I find very useful is visualizing. It's been shown that through our mind, you know, we can create so much. So there were Russian athletes who ran and had all their vital signs monitored, and then the Russian athletes were monitored and asked to imagine themselves running the same way they had just run, and the vital signs were the same. The activity within their muscles was the same through the visualization as through the actual running. So using the power of your mind to transport you to that forest or to that park or to that waterfall or that river or the beach or wherever it is that you feel that kinship with, that closeness, that calming effect, is a very powerful thing. The other thing we can do is, obviously now we live in a world with huge amounts of technology. We can get nature sounds. You know, you can watch a nature video of a forest and allow yourself to tune in that way. If you do live in a flat and you can't get out, get some plants inside your flat. Start growing some herbs. This is a really, really lovely thing to do so that you can at least connect with the plants inside.
Transformative.
So thanks for joining me, and tune in next week.